Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel Uncover to Cover. If you didn't tune into my last video, please make sure you do. It's all about co-parenting. I will link it in my description box below, so please do check it out. This episode is all about the absent father, and once again, just sharing my experiences on growing up without a father. So as I mentioned in my previous video, I'm currently 28 years old. So my whole life I've grown up without my father being around. This topic was a bit of a difficult one for me to do because I've never really taken the time out throughout my life to think about the impacts of not having a father in my life. And it's only recently that I started to really think about it and understand, why I am the way I am, or why I've been the way I've been throughout my life. So it's quite interesting because I feel like I always just got on with my life and I didn't need to think about it and I didn't want to think about it. I think it was what it was, and that's kind of how I lived my life. Like, my dad wasn't there, what can I do about it? And I just had to be the best that I could be. And I don't know, I just never wanted that to be an excuse for anything, because I feel like there was only ever negative things for people to say about girls growing up without their dads. And I didn't want that to be my story. I didn't want people to think that I had a problem because my dad wasn't around. I wanted to be seen just the same as everyone else. I grew up, as I said, I wasn't really ever angry. I wasn't really upset. I didn't feel like I had that hurt or pain or anything towards my dad. I just didn't feel it. I don't know if it's because my mum did such a great job or because it's that case of you can't miss what you never had. So I don't know. I think it's really, really weird. I sometimes don't know what's worse, to have something and have it taken away, or to never have it at all. So for me, it was the latter. I've just never had it, so I didn't really know what I was missing out on. I've just always thought there must have been a reason. Like, why would you not want to look after your child? Like, I don't know, I just feel like no one grows up and decides that they want to be a bad father. No one wakes up that way. Something happened along the way for someone to do that. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. For some dads, it may have been finances. For some dads, it may have been they felt like they were too young. For other people, it may have been the woman they just didn't get along with, or whatever it is. I just felt like there must have been a reason. I always wondered whether I should really pester my mom to find out why he left and why he wasn't around, but sometimes I know that can be a bit of a tricky conversation to have that I didn't know if I really wanted to get into. But because I feel like I've made so many mistakes in my life and I've always expected to have grace or mercy from others, I've always just felt like I have to give that to other people as well. And I think that's why for me it made me a lot different to how some people feel towards their dad. I just didn't feel that hatred. I think I just felt like I have to give him some grace because I don't know what he was going through. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know his thought process. And who am I to just be mad without having no understanding whatsoever? So I think I was about 11 years old and I decided to do a Facebook search kind of thing and get my dad's number from one of my half sisters. I went and got a calling card. I called my dad and I just had a conversation and I was just like, "Hi, I'm Jeanette, your daughter." I know, proper weird, but that's literally how it goes. And I don't really remember the conversation much, but it was just normal. There was no tension, obviously a little bit of awkwardness, but it was just genuine conversations that we started having on a weekly basis or whatever it was. I don't know who initiated it, but my sister and I ended up in America to go and see him, as I said, in about year 7. And we spent, I think, maybe 3 weeks or 2 weeks with him, and it was fine. It was absolutely fine. He did everything that a dad should do. He provided, he was quite protecting whilst we were out there. He made sure we had enough money, he made sure he cooked and cleaned, he was a good dad. And I think that was just the biggest shock of it all, because I think whenever a dad leaves like that, I think you automatically expect him to be a waste man. Like, you just think he's gonna be living in some trampy house and not know how to cook or clean and just be a complete and utter waste man, because you just think, how do you not look after your child? And he was nothing like that. He was great in a way, and I think it was just a huge shock to the system, but it was nice, and I have only good memories of being there with him. It's a bit weird because my sister and I are totally different when it comes to my dad. Like, I get this excitement of going there to see him or calling him, and she's just like, meh. Like, she just, it is what it is. She doesn't really care at all. Maybe she does, but you know what I mean. She's never been that expressive person anyway, but you know, she will go and meet him and you will never hear the word dad come out her mouth, or daddy. Never, like never. I'm always like, hi dad, hi daddy, and that's just not her. It won't physically come out of her mouth to say the word dad, and she has her own reasons for that. For me, I'm just like, he's my dad, like what else can I call him? And obviously there's the whole respect thing first of all, and secondly, okay, although he's not been much of a dad to me, as I said, I forgave him a long time ago, so for me it's just like whatever. So yeah, we went there, and then I think we communicated a bit afterwards when we came back, and then you lose communication a bit, and then I would kind of normally be the one to chase him up and be like, hi dad, you haven't called in a while, and we spoke throughout maybe those 5 or 7 years. We went back again in, I think, the first year of uni. I don't really remember how many times we went to America, but either way, I know we went back at least 7 years later, so my first year of uni. And then we had the period of not really talking that much again. So it's always been like that, where now we talk, have a bit of a break, talk again. And I think the only problem with it is I tend to make more effort than he does. But I don't know why, I just don't expect much of him. He wasn't around for all those years. Why should I now expect him to be fantastic with communication? He never tried to get in contact with me all those years, so I'm just not expecting much from him now. So I'm just happy to have him there, knowing that my dad's still alive and that I can go and see him when I want, and that we actually have some form of communication. I'm happy with that, because there are a lot of people that don't have anything near that. So I will take what I've got and I will do the most with it. But aside from all of that, as I said, that was just more giving you a bit of background on our current relationship, or my current relationship with my dad. In terms of now thinking about how not having him around has impacted my life, it's weird. I try and think back on just memories I've had, and I do remember times where, you know, at school, when your friends' dads call them after school or after a party and are like, where are you? Come home now. You're an hour late. School finished half an hour ago. You should be home. And me, my phone will just be silent, no ringing. Like, I don't know. It was a bit like, oh, I want someone to call my phone. My mum just never really was that person. I don't know why, but I don't think it bothered me that much. I think it was the fact that it was more of a father thing to do, where your father kind of that protective role of, where's my child, I hope they're safe. And I really envied that in a way. I was like, I would love for my dad to call me and be like, come home now, or you're not going to that party, or your skirt's too short, or you're showing too much cleavage. Like, I don't know, I just think that, I know it sounds weird because people that probably have that wish they didn't, but I would actually have loved that. I would have loved for someone to tell me to pull up my top or whatever it is before I leave the house. And it's weird because most teenagers would want freedom, and I wanted less freedom. I wanted someone to call me and be protective and care where I was or what time I was getting home. And I think sometimes, obviously, that ended up having an impact on maybe how I felt about my mum. Like, oh, did she really care where I was? I wasn't really mad because some part of me felt like maybe it's not her job. Maybe that was my dad's job to make sure that I was protected. Having a close group of girls who all had their mums and dads, and I was pretty much the only one without my dad there, made it a little bit more difficult, because day in and day out you're seeing that connection between their dads and them, and it's hard to watch sometimes. But after a while I did get used to it, but there were just points where I would stop and feel like, I want that and I wish I had that. But in a second later I would just be back to living my life again. As I said, I just think it was one of those things I just didn't want to think about. Even little things like just seeing dads come to pick them up from school, and the dad will take their bags and help them into the car or something like that. And it gave me a little glimpse of what a father should be like with their child, and what kind of relationship a daughter should have with their father. And it was beautiful to see, and I think it's helped me, but it wasn't enough, because all I would see is glimpses as opposed to having it day in and day out within my home. So although it was helpful, and I thank God that my friends did have fathers that I can see that, it's never going to be the same as actually having it in your home. I definitely think that not having my dad around has impacted my relationship with men, like 100%. And it's scary to think that I never noticed it before until now. Like, looking back and realizing I've never really had any male friends. I've grown up my whole life, and I can probably count on my hands how many real friendships I've had with men, because all I've ever known is that men are there to be in a relationship with, as opposed to having a friendship. So all I went by was what I saw on TV. So on TV, very rarely will you see people display things about having relationships, as in friendships with men. Very rarely do you see that. All you see on TV is a sexual or loving relationship between a man and a woman. That was kind of all I knew. That was how I took it, and I didn't know how to, because it goes back to that whole thing of your father should be your first love, like that first relationship between a man and a woman. And I never had that, so I had to create my own thing, and the way I created it was from TV or the internet or whatever it was. So all I ever knew was that a guy is either meant to like me or I should like them. And it was annoying, because there's times where people would always be like, oh Jeanette, what's going on between you two? And I'll be like, no, he's just my friend. And secretly it was annoying, but deep down in my head I was like, he probably does like me, or I probably like him and I don't even know it. But it's just, that was it for years. Like, literally thinking back now, there's just a very few handful of males that I can honestly sit here and say it is strictly platonic and they are just my friend. So that's even affected me when I've been in relationships with men. So I will have a relationship with a partner, but it would be difficult for me to have male friends within that relationship, because wires were getting crossed, because I didn't really know how to be in this relationship and have platonic relationships with other males. And so it was either, if I was in a relationship, I can't have any male friends at all because something may happen, or I just can't be in a relationship. And it was so difficult because I didn't know how to keep a man as a friend. And it's really scary to think about it, and it's worrying, but that has been me for a very long time. And it's taken a lot of madness and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of just crazy situations for me to start establishing how to have a male as a friend. And I believe I'm now at a place where I know how to do that. And it's taken me a hell of a long time to get there, but I'm happy I've finally got there. And I don't really have steps to having males as friends, but it's just taken a lot of pain to get there, and unfortunately that's the way it's done, but I'm happy either way that I've made it here. It's also impacted the relationships that I've had, because I've had an expectation of how a guy should treat a girl from TV. And let's be honest, that's not realistic. It's not realistic at all. And it's all fairy tale nonsense. Like, it's not all lovey-dovey as it is on TV. Like, that is not how relationships between men and women are. But that is all I've seen, is that a man comes in from work, kisses his wife on the head and gives her flowers, and then she cooks for him and he says this is amazing, and then they go upstairs and the magic happens. And that was literally how I visioned it to be. I didn't understand that you can have disagreements, and it wasn't this just perfect life between a man and a woman. And that affected me, because if I didn't see what was on the TV screen happening in my relationship, I was mad. Like, I was this crazy girl that needed it to be perfect, and if it wasn't perfect, I'd be mad. And it's caused so many problems, because guys just looked at me like, oh boy, are you okay? Like, I can't always be holding your hand and putting my arm on your shoulder, taking my coat off when you're cold. Like, it was never going to be like that, but that was what I wanted, and that was what I expected, and that at the time is what I felt I needed. And it's just caused so many problems. As I said, it's only now that I've realised that, unfortunately, that will never be the case, and that sometimes there is drama. So this is why I think it's so important to grow up seeing that relationship between a man and a woman, or a husband and a wife, or a father and a mother. It's so important, because you get a realistic picture of what life is going to be like. Not in all cases, but in the majority of cases, you get to see a good picture of what it's meant to look like, especially in a marriage. But it's also, as I said, affected me with just my relationship with men. And that's why it's important also to just grow up having that father figure in your life. Having the dad kiss you on the forehead, where it's not in a sexual way, but just in a loving, respectful, caring way. And to not see that, but to just see the sexual aspects between a man and a woman, is very dangerous to just have that. I've craved that moment where you come down the stairs ready for your girls' night out, your skirt is hella short, and your dad's like, take it off. But not in a way that's annoying, but because he's saying, respect yourself. Do you know what I mean? I don't want you to go out there and have guys looking at you in a certain way. And I've not had that. So if anything, I've craved the attention from men to be like, oh yeah, you look hot in that skirt, or whatever. And to show that that's not a good thing, but to have a guy respect you, that's what's good. To not have that my whole life, I've had to learn it another way, about respecting yourself, about understanding that you're a princess or a queen, and that, you know, only your husband should be able to see certain elements or certain parts. A lot of my life has been trial and error, instead of having a father that has grown up and taught me every step of the way how to be a woman that a man will respect and want to marry. But instead, I've just had to learn by my mistakes. And it's hard and it's annoying, but I don't want that to be an excuse for all of the mess I've made, because it's not. Because there are a lot of girls that have grown up without a father and they respect themselves, they're virtuous, honourable women. Unfortunately, that's not my story. I've not really been that girl. As I said, I've made a lot of mistakes that have made me who I am today, as opposed to having a good upbringing and a good teaching, because I've not had that. It's so important to make sure that if your dad's not around, that you do have some kind of male figure in your life that can teach you certain things. Because if not, it is kind of a live and learn thing, and it's not always the nicest way. I wish I took more time out to think about why I was the way I was, instead of always being like, this is just how I am. And I should have taken that time out and realized that there was a problem and taken action. And as I said, finding someone to talk to, whether it was one of my parents' dads or a pastor or someone to just help me through this process. For me, the one thing that I thank God for is that he has been a father to me my whole life. Like, he has been everything that a dad could be. He's been a protector, he's been a provider, he's encouraged, he's like been able to wipe my tears. Like, he's just been amazing, and I don't think I would have ever done it without him. So although I say that I wish I had someone there, don't get me wrong, like, God was there every step of the way. And I don't know if you're watching and you're a Christian or not a Christian, but either way, as I said to you, like, God has been a father to me, and I thank God that, you know, when I have had heartbreaks, like, he's been the one to say, Jay, you're beautiful, pick yourself up. Like, he's been the one to say, Jeanette, take that off, like, that's not who I've called you to be. Like, he's done so much for me to help me out. Has he been that physical father that's kind of been there, you know, physically? No, but spiritually, it's been amazing. Like, it's helped so much, and don't think I would be where I am today if it wasn't for God. When the Bible says, when your father and mother forsake you, I will lift you up, like, that scripture's everything. Like, and that he is a father to the fatherless. These things have literally been my life. I've felt his protection when I've been scared on the road and I've had no one to call. Like, he's protected me. He's provided for me when I've just needed that money and I wished, oh my gosh, like, would my life be different if my dad was around? Would we be here eating corned beef stew? And when times were hard and I wished that maybe if my dad was around, things would have been different. My mum wouldn't have had to struggle. But God provided. Like, he's literally been a father to me. And for that, I thank him every day, because I think that's partly why in the beginning when I said I never really thought about it, probably because I genuinely knew I had a father, and yeah, I didn't feel that lack. One day I will sit down with my dad and ask him all the hard questions. Why he was never around, why he didn't want to know who I was, why he never chased me or tried to find me, or all of these things. One day I will. But for now, I'm just happy that he's there. You know, I even went to see him last year, and as I said, it was a great time. I let my son meet his granddad, and my nephew got to meet his granddad, and it was fantastic. And I honestly do encourage you all, as I said in the co-parenting thing, that I made an effort to call my son's dad, see if we could rebuild this relationship. And it's the same thing that I did with my dad here. And I encourage you that if you don't know your dad, but you know he's alive and that there's a possibility or a way of you getting in connection with him, do so. Because, like, you don't want it to get to that point where you find out he's died and you wish you made more of an effort, or you wish you knew your dad. I encourage you to do that, obviously depending on what the situation is. But yeah, I'm really happy I reached out to him and that I know him. Thank you for watching, and I hope someone can relate to it, and I hope that it encourages somebody, and I just hope that it helps in some way, shape or form. So make sure you subscribe, like, comment and share. Thank you, bye.